Hey, everybody. It's Tara here. And I just realized, I think I'm going to actually stream this to Instagram too. So bear with me. I just realized that today is my 1 year anniversary of our move to Portugal. Right? So here we go. I'm going to try to stream here too. I'm streaming from my backyard in Portugal. And I'm just excited. Okay, so for my Instagram folks, I just realized that today, July 17th, 2024, it's our 1 year anniversary for London and I living here in Portugal. We live in the village of Arawaida, which sounds very village, but is actually a protected pine forest where part has been turned into golf courses. And we live in this beautiful villa. And we are 1.3 kilometers from the Atlantic Ocean. And we're about a 25-minute drive from Lisbon when there is no traffic. And we are about a 200-hour drive to Lisbon when there is traffic. So it's very reminiscent of our previous home in the Bay Area, where I was for almost 25 years, almost exactly 25 years before we moved. So I just thought, I am big on ritual. I am big on let me introduce myself for those of you who don't know me. My name is Tara-Nicholle Kirk. Some people call me the metaphysician. I am the founder and CEO of Soul Tour. We are a fully integrated personal growth coaching and business growth consulting firm, kind of all in one, with a really deep spiritual bent. That's how we do what we do, is we learn to yield and wield the laws of the universe, new thought spirituality, and our human design, among other of what I call the congruence codes for understanding our true selves. And we fully integrate that spirit with all kinds of strategy from neurobiology and psychology and straight up business, like how to grow businesses that do really well and thrive financially and also do really good and change people's lives and change your life too. And in fact, just as a little heads up, I have a beautiful 5-day training series coming up next Monday, July 22nd, for the whole week, on how to rapidly manifest your very own low stress and high income and high vibration coaching business using the Tara Kirk method. So if you want to enroll for that, the training series is free. Go to soultour.com/training. But that's not why we're here. We are here to celebrate, to make meaningful this very auspicious occasion, my 1 year anniversary of moving from Oakland, California, all the way to Arawaida, about 25 minutes, 30 minutes outside of Lisbon, Portugal. And I just wanted to come here and give thanks. Give thanks for this perfect day of life in which miracles will and have followed miracles, and wonders have not yet started to cease, and they're not about to start ceasing now. I wanted to give thanks for this last 12 months and for the perfect unfolding of this year. And when I say perfect, I don't mean perfect like Photoshop perfect, everything just worked exactly the way I thought it would work. I mean perfect as in divine order and divine timing, as in we always were and always will and be and continually are in the perfect place at the perfect time, in a perfect state of surrender, because we know that everything is always working out for us, right? And it's been really beautiful. I have made a lot of big moves in my 48 years of life, y'all. This move was special in that it was the first really, really big move I've made in my life, that I made since I started to experiment with and live my human design type and strategy and authority. And I made decisions that were really different than I would have made before. I made decisions that were really different than if I was like checking off a checklist. Okay, now let's be real. I had a kind of intense had a kind of intense life in wonderful ways and some shocking ways. that have shocked me and many other people back into connection with source, with spirit, with all that is, with God, with who we really are. And I had a really intense sort of few years leading up to this move. But I say this move really started in my conscious mind. So I know for sure that every person I've ever encountered, every degree I've ever earned, every person I've ever coached, every course I've ever taught, every plot twist of my life, from teenage mom in Bakersfield to being gifted a beautiful education by my parents and then by benefactors at Cal State University, Bakersfield, where I got bachelor's and master's degrees in psychology. And then by more benefactors at UC Berkeley, where I got my law degree. And then just, by all the education, by all the gurus of my life, all the events of my life. When I was a real estate lawyer and a real estate broker, and then a spokesperson for HGTV, and a marketer for Trulia, and the chief marketer at MyFitnessPal, all of these plot twists, right? Creating my own business, Soul Tour 7 years ago. Plot twist after plot twist, and I give thanks for them all. And I found myself in 2020, with a brand new surprise baby, about to get a surprise medical diagnosis. That was concerning. About to lose a friend, a really good friend. Pandemic about to start, about to go through some real challenging things with my adult kids. And in 2020, I had this meditation, this day of just doing my own daily ritual practice, the same practice that I teach my students and members at Soul Tour, where I sat on the mat and I just asked myself for my own prompt to myself that day. If this was the end, how would you feel? How do you reflect back on your life if this was the last day of it? I sat there with that question that I've asked so many other people so many times, and I asked myself that question. And you know what I came to? My first answer, if this was the end, how would you feel? I was like, you know what, girl, you did that shit. Straight up. I was like, you did that shit. And this was the end, kudos. You did that shit. And also, you really should live on a farm by the beach. You really should. You belong on a farm by the beach. And so, as much as I can say that this move was not a checklist move, I didn't make it according to anybody's checklist. I didn't have a spreadsheet. I'm not a spreadsheet chick. Okay. What I did do was, 2020, while we were about to go into lockdown, I was getting the download that I needed to live on a farm by the beach. And 2020 had held a lot of things. Like I said, I had just gotten a surprise baby that I was in the process of adopting. I had a complex, medical diagnosis. We were about to enter the pandemic. I entered a state of sitting in a room by myself with a 2-year-old for 21 days because of this pandemic. And I was like, all right, bet. Like, you need to live in a farm by the beach. I've done a lot of big things. I've started 3 7-figure plus businesses, including MyFitnessPal. I, was part of the leadership team. That was a 9-figure business. I've written 4 books, and I was like, yeah, let's do something. Let's start from here. So I did have a little bit of a checklist. My checklist looked like farm by the beach. And I came out of that meditation and I Googled the words farm by the beach. I Googled farm by the beach. And what came up was Farmer Katie Pence's fruit and flower farm in Gualala, California on the Mendocino coast. And it came up, it slept 16 people, and I rented it for me in London. I rented it for a couple weeks. We went up there. I had a bunch of friends who were going to come, visit us at various days, including our coach Keisha, one of the master coaches at Soul Tour, who's moving to Panama as we speak from Oakland herself. And I rented that fruit and flower farm and drove up and was having friends come visit us, and I didn't realize that the California fires of that year were kind of right behind me on the freeway, closing the freeway down. So it was me and little London, who was like 2 at the time, in that farm by the beach for a couple days by ourselves, and then our friends started to come. And then so did the clarity. Because we were in the forest on her farm by the beach, Farmer Katie and a couple dogs and me and London. And I was like, download of clarity. I like this farm by the beach feeling. I like how my energies feel here. My signal runs clear here. I started to get downloads there that I wasn't getting while I was living in the city in Oakland. And I also started to fine tune our checklist. It was like farm by the beach is a vibe for us. We need better internet than this one, than this beach in particular has to offer, right? So farm by the beach with good internet. And I was like, I love Mendocino people. They're kind of a vibe. And also, if we were going to live somewhere where I was going to send London to school, I would want her to have like more diversity culturally. I wanted there to be like a farm by the beach with good internet by a world-class city with a good airport, an international airport with some Black people nearby. So my kid's not the only Black kid in class, right? So I got that clarity by just taking the natural next step. So we went to the farm by the beach at Gualala and I got clearer and I came back to Oakland. Actually, no, that 2 weeks turned into a couple months because the fires got really bad in California and we had this perfect, pristine air there. Then I came back to Oakland and then I went to San Jose del Cabo. We just gradually started to go to different places around, mostly in Mexico, where we thought we could maybe get a little farm by the beach vibe. And as we went, we got clearer and clearer on what our checklist was. And as we went, we did a little more and more of a vibe check. Is this right? Did this feel right to me? Did this feel shackles on, shackles off? At the time, I was getting certified as a first level and level 2 human design specialist. And I was like learning how to follow my strategy as a projector. Like, do I feel invited here? Does this feel like I'm getting invitations to be here? Right? Hey, I've got Tam Van Horn here. Hi, love. And Olivia. Hello. Thank you, babe. And actually, I should take a peek at Facebook to see if you guys have any questions. Do let me know. I'll see if I can check the comments. Let me know if you have any questions. Like if you're thinking about, have any of you thought about making a big move like this? Okay, well, so Veronica, my beloved niece on Facebook, is saying, depending on the election in the States, I might need a room. So first things first, everybody else moves to Lisbon and gets like a little apartment in downtown Lisbon. I moved to Lisbon and get a 5-bedroom villa on a golf course with a really, let's see if I can do it with all these devices, with a really good pool in a pine forest. In part because a lot of my friends wanted to, in part because London needs her people to plug into her people. I needed to be able to have friends come visit. I needed space for a live-in nanny or somebody. One of the reasons I moved here was because I needed a lot. London needs a staff. It's like this child has electric cords that extend from her body and she plugs them into other people. She gets super juiced and energized with other people around. Whereas I need to live kind of like in the forest. And I love a good one-on-one after one-on-one. But the reality is I would not be telling you the full truth if I said, oh, I was just in a meditation and just farm by the beach and that's why I moved. Sure. And remember where 2020 was, guys. 2020 was, we had just had come out of the first, you know who, I guess you could call it administration in the United States, for lack of a better word. And I lived through that and I was like, I don't know if these United States are for me. I don't know. And then I'd had some other experiences in my history as an American, including like the experience of witnessing Trayvon Martin. And I never felt good about it. I was never like, I'm not a one to have chips on my shoulders, but I believe in taking people at their word about who they are. And at the experience of Trayvon Martin's being slaughtered and at a lot of America kind of being okay with that, I was like, okay, my fellow countrymen have let me know where we at. Noted. George Floyd also being slaughtered in that time, very much. I already was kind of radical, so I don't know if I would say it radicalized me because it wasn't like the beginning, but it definitely was like, I'm like not okay with this, y'all. And this country has told us what it's about with respect to our children. I'm not, and I don't just mean Black children, but I do also mean Black children and Black men. I have 2 adult Black male children. Um, so I was like, I'm really not with it. Straight up, I'm not with it. And so a lot of you now are like, "Oh, you were right. You got out while you could," kind of thing. Or like, "If the election's bad, I'll come visit or I'll come move there too." Great. Whatever gets you to where you're supposed to be is great. And also, what really started to energize my move was when I had 25 years of talk therapy for PTSD from childhood. And then in the wake of the fresh traumas that I had in that time frame, like personal life traumas, I had some very intensive medical treatment for PTSD. And as to borrow the phrase from Michael Pollan, fresh snow fell over the ruts in my brain. I started to think new thoughts without having to work at it and use all the tools that I have in my toolkit for reframing thoughts. And I started to get this really clear, fresh. If you know my teachings on core trance, and if you know my teachings on the nervous system, this was when all of that started to come together in a really clear body of work. The Tara-Nicholle method, as some of you guys know it now, started to crystallize then because I was living it. I had done the deep recalibration. I had done a lot of actualization work and understanding who I really was. I had taken a lot of inspired to build the business and the life that I was born to live. But when I had those medical experiences that healed my brain and healed my core trance of trauma in a way where it integrated and deactivated those energies out of my system, whew, the Technicolor vision that downloaded into my life for my life and for London's. I was like, oh, London needs to surf. Oh, she needs to ride horses. Oh, I need to live in a farm by the beach, by the city with Black people and great internet, Michelin star restaurants, because, your girl. And so the clarity that started to come in, then human design started to come into my life instantly. Design found me. Okay. And so then now I had this new toolkit that was like allowing me to move through my life and my business and the world, retooling a lot of things, cleaning up a lot of the way that I used to do things when I was under the influence of my core trance and my conditioning, my fear, my scarcity, my unworthiness, my trauma, right? But this was like, oh, really rapid fire. I quadrupled my income from School Tour in like a year. And at the same time, I closed down my other business, my gym business, because I was like, wait, this is not the business for me, just based on what I knew now from what we now in the Tara-Nicholle method call the congruence codes, my human design. So what really energized and galvanized my move and my business and my everything else, my physical healing in my body from a condition I'd had for 20 years, undiagnosed, what really supercharged all of that was when I healed from trauma and caught this beautiful vision for what I was moving to. Moving from might light a spark, might light a fire, might get you going for a little bit, but it doesn't energize you the way moving to the beautiful, right feeling, resonant, new Technicolor super bloom vision for your life is. It's like the power of love for your true self and your life and your destiny and your callings and your people. That's what these big moves like this are a long haul. It took me 2 years to find where we would go, and it took me a full year and 4 scouting trips to Lisbon and surrounds. It cost me probably 50, 70 grand the way that I did this move with consultants and lawyers and not really doing a whole lot of paperwork myself because I have a business. I got 3 kids. I wasn't trying to do no whole bunch of paperwork myself. Finding the right place, feeling for whether I had the invitation, all of that took money, time, energy. It took me seeing what needed seeing and saying what needed saying to myself, about myself, and to other people. One of the questions I get asked a lot is like, I one of the things I hear people say who want to move and are not moving is that they don't want to abandon other people. And the truth is that some people in your life may feel abandoned if you make a big move like this. People in my life have. I have literally had conversations with very close relatives who are like, I feel abandoned. And I give thanks that I am in a state of spiritual maturity and well-being and knowing and skillfulness and mastery of the same skills that I teach my clients and students and members, that I could meet that conversation and say, like, I love you. I see the experience you're having. I honor, like, I recognize the experience you're having. I think it's well justified. You get to have your experience of my move. A little bit, it's like a nice way to say, like, your experience of my move is not my business. All right. But I love you. So I want you to know that I'm hearing you and I witness you. I see. And that's your journey. And I know, and this part I don't say because you don't need to. I am a screen and not a sponge to your experience of my move. All right. I can be here and hold some space for you and have a conversation with you. And also let you know that this is the move I made and it's been working wonderfully for me. So, my body has changed and healed after some crises for sure when I got here. My business, I have retooled so that now I'm not the only chick in the beach club with a laptop open because the Europeans have it right. We don't need to work all the time, right? I've retooled my whole business to be way lower stress, higher revenue, and frankly, more impactful because it's more sustainable for me to work this way. Um, my child is loved and cared for, and I have so many layers of support here. The last time I took a trip and I came into the baggage claim and my luggage concierge service was waiting there, my driver was waiting there. I got home, my housekeeper had just continued to come while I was gone. I have housekeeping 20 hours a week here. She had continued to organize my shelves and do all the things she said that she wanted to do that she couldn't do while we were here, right? My daughter has a governess who's a classical musician and teaches her French, and it, it's magnificent, and actually teaches her some Portuguese, and she goes to a beautiful international school. My butcher drops the meat off at my door and always forgets to bring the credit card machine. So when I do go to his neighborhood, I have a little set of tabs in the register. One thing I really learned this year was that really making the big moves you want to make it's not about strength. It's not about power. Life is not as much as the American media would have us believe. It's not about hard work or making it happen. It's really about alignment. It's really about alignment. It's really about activation, activating what you desire, activating who you be, the full power of who you are, activating that. Right? And letting that energy do a lot of the work that you thought you had to do the hardest possible freaking way. I am like, if there was an AA or 12-step program for people recovering from an addiction to doing things the hardest freaking possible way, I would be the president of that hair club for men, if you know the reference. All right. So one thing that's coming up right now, I'm going to go let Leticia, our governess, go, but I came out here. I didn't know where I was going to go when I committed to making this big move. I just committed to my big self. I committed to my big dreams. I committed to follow my human design strategy and be masterful, right? And use the skills that I had. And I kind of moved out here because I wanted the best of both worlds. I wanted to be able to be a little bit of a hermit, and I wanted London to be able to be in the world, but be wild and free in the world, right? In a safety level, in a way that I couldn't offer her in the States because it wasn't available. And she does. She rides horses, she surfs, she does the whole thing. But what's happening in this season is God, source, spirit, life are asking me to be less of a hermit than I would like to be. And I'm in full surrender to that. I'm here for it. Because I know that me, God, and goddess, me, source, spirit, and all that is, me and y'all together, fully activated, is a vibe. And so I'm not going to let my personal likes and dislikes for ample time and space to meditate and write get in the way of us rendezvousing in the real world and on this here internet, which I give thanks for. Because as wild as it can be in these internet streets, it allows me to run a beautiful, kind of big business from my backyard in Portugal. All right, let me make sure I'm not missing anybody's questions. But I'm gonna head out. This has been a beautiful. This has been, um, and I've loved sharing the journey with you. So watch out, watch out. And watch for your invites. Oh, and come join me at the training series on Monday. Go to soultour.com/training. It's free. Just join me and we'll do 5 days of vibe. 5 days of me sharing with you what I've learned about how to run a low stress, high income business from your zone of genius for the benefit of the people you love and who love you. All right. All right, guys. I love you. See you soon.